today I'm going to be showing you how to make a beautiful needle felted butterfly. My name is Charlotte Allen and you've reached my channel, The Felting Alchemist. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my tutorial on how to make a really beautiful needle felted butterfly, and you can incorporate this butterfly into all kinds of designs. So whether you want to be making a mobile or you want to make it into some kind of hair accessory, I'm going to be incorporating mine into my Frida Kahlo duck, but it's a really versatile item that you can make, and you can incorporate it into loads of your sculptures, especially if you're doing stuff like wall art, taxidermy, all that kind of thing. So let's get started with the tutorial. Welcome to the tutorial. So we're going to be making this really beautiful butterfly who I've named Brenda because why not? And she's on some floristry wire, but she's got some lovely colours going through her, and she's actually really simple to make. And I'm going to go through with you now what you need in order to make Brenda. So the materials that you are going to need to make Brenda the butterfly are as follows. So you're going to need one of these brush mats. This one is a clover brush mat. It was about £15, but you can pick them up on Amazon for slightly less if you're willing to wait for them to arrive from China. I think you can get them for about £8 or something like that. Don't quote me, but just have a look. But you definitely need one of these. And you're also going to need one of these. This is a 7 needle multi-tool. And in here, I've got 7 fine triangular needles, as you can see here, and we're going to use this in conjunction with the brush mat to create the wings of our butterfly. You're also going to need some wire snips for the floristry wire, a couple of lengths of floristry wire. This is about, I think it's about 22 gauge, something like that, so not super duper thick. You're also going to need your embroidery scissors, which are a must for any needle felting sculpture. You are going to need, well, ideally a needle felted pen like this with 2 twisted fine needles inside. But if you don't have one, you can do this with just one singular needle. But definitely try and get hold of a twisted fine needle if you can, because it just makes your work a lot quicker to produce, okay? You're also going to need a dowel needle. Again, you can pick these up on Amazon. They're not very expensive, and they usually come in packs of 3. So you can usually buy, this is, I think, is probably one of the longest ones, and then they come in slightly smaller sizes. But you'll need one of these to create your butterfly. You're also going to need another twisted fine needle on its own if you're going to be using the double pen as well, because this is going to help us with the more intricate work that we're doing on the butterfly's eyes later on. You're going to need a medium twisted needle. You're also going to need some super glue. Can't live without super glue. Okay, so for the butterfly wings, you're going to be needing some white wool. This is like a white Gotland wool. Now you could use it as a core wool. It's quite a nice quality wool. It's nice and soft. You want it to be white rather than any other colour, because we're going to be layering colours on top, and white just gives you a much better base rather than going with something like a brown or something like that. So get a white core wool. You want to have a strip of black wool bats, and then you want to choose 3 coloured wool bats in any of your favourite colours. So I've gone with this like beautiful candy floss pink, this kind of aqua blue, and then this lovely kind of mellow yellowy colour. And then finally, you're also going to need some of this, which is just like a brown wool bats as well. So let's get stuck into the tutorial. I forgot to say, you're also going to need one of these, which is a luxury pipe cleaner, and it's covered in like a black chenille. So you're going to need one of these, and that's going to be for your butterfly's body. Okay, so the first thing you need to do in order to make Brenda is we want to create a flat piece of material. So we're going to take our wool bats, and you don't want a really thick layer. We want to keep this relatively fine because we're going to add more wool on as the tutorial progresses, and we don't want to end up with a really thick, cumbersome wing. We want to try and keep it as thin and as delicate as possible. So start off with a layer, probably sort of this thick, so I don't know, it's probably a few millimetres in thickness. And we're going to use our multi-tool, and we're just going to stab. And we're going to keep stabbing until we've got to the stage where the wool is nicely compacted, and it's almost like a piece of felt material that you would find in the shop. So it kind of combines into one piece. And you can see here that that multi-tool is really taking all the effort out of doing loads of work if you were using, say, a single needle or a double needle. So I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side now. Don't worry if you've got any kind of bits of vegetable matter in your wool at this stage. It doesn't matter too much, but you just need to ensure that it is a white wool that you're using. Otherwise you're going to get sort of colours coming through that might alter the colour of the colours you've chosen to go onto your wings, if that makes sense. So if, for instance, I said you were using like a slightly more creamy colour, then it would alter the colours that you add on top of the wings. Okay, so we've now reached a stage where you've kind of got this compacted piece of wool. What you want to do then is you want to go online, and the handy amongst you will be able to have a look at some butterfly wings, and you want to make 2 pieces. You want to draw them and then cut them out of card, and I've just got some kind of finished card that I've made my template out of. So this is going to be my top wing, and then this is going to be my bottom wing. So what you'll find is this will come out of the top, and then this is going to slot underneath the bottom like that, and then you're going to have the body coming this way, and it just creates a bit more of a 3D finish rather than having one entire wing and making it a bit flat looking. So I think it's really nice to make 2 pieces, and it just gives the overall finished sculpture a more interesting look. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of wool that we've just felted down, and I'm going to fold it in half. Then I'm going to take my first wing, my embroidery scissors, and I'm just going to cut around the edge of the wing that I've made out of card. Simples. So you want to go quite delicate with this, but don't worry too much if you get any rough edges, because you can always neaten those up, and we're going to be putting more wool on top as well. So if it is a bit rough and ready, don't worry too much, because it will develop as the tutorial goes on. So I've just got that last bit there, that rounded piece. And there we go. So what you should have then are 2 pieces of wool like this. Okay, so they're going to make the tops of our wings. So what we're going to do now is exactly the same thing with the second wing. So again, I'm going to take some more of my white Gotland wool bats, probably a little bit more than this. And I'm going to take my multi-tool, and I'm just going to stab that down again. Okay, so once you've got to the stage again where it's all nicely compacted, fold it over, take your second template, make sure that you don't place it right on the edge of where you folded it over, because that way you tend to not get as accurate a copy of the template in the wool. So take it back a bit so you've got about 1 centimetre there of gap, and then I just like to cut round again. And on this one, you've got this lovely piece here that flicks out, and this is going to really, again, add some dimension to our sculpture when it's finished. So make sure you hold the wool nice and tightly as you're cutting around it, because it'd be very easy for the template to move. So really squeeze it down so it doesn't move anywhere, and you can get a nice, accurate copy. Okay, so there you go. So we've got 2 bottom wings, and then we've got our 2 top wings. So this next bit's going to be the fun bit. What we're going to do now is we're going to start adding colour to our wings, and you can kind of do this however you want to do it, but I like to do it to get a more natural, maybe more realistic look. I like to try and create more of a balayage look, so more of a kind of graduated colour. So I'm going to start off with my base colour, and my base colour is going to be pink. And I'm going to take a very thin amount of the pink core wool. So not loads and loads, because remember, we don't want it to be too thick. So just a pinch almost, and I'm just going to spread it out. Just a little bit more towards the top end. And then I'm just going to take my multi-tool again, and I'm going to stab it down. And as you stab it down, these bits of wool that go over the edges, leave those there, because we're going to fold them over onto the underside in a second. Okay, so flip it over, and then just bring these over onto the other side, and then that creates a bit of a barrier as well then, because we've got all this looseness where we've trimmed our wool, so this helps to then seal it all into place again, so it's not going to unravel as we, create the sculpture. So what I like to do is just bring my finger in, fold it down, and then just stab it so that it stays in place. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a bit more wool for the other side and then do the same thing. And then flip it over and then bring those edges, those loose edges, over onto the other side to create that seal. Like so. Okay. So once you're happy with the colour that you've added, and don't worry if you've got any patchiness because it's all going to get covered up eventually. So it's better to have slightly less at the moment and then you can always add in later rather than putting too much on because you can't take it away. It's better to have less and add rather than too much and kind of be stuck, if you like. So you need to do the same thing with this one. So I will see you in a second. Eventually you should have two wings that look like this. And what you want to think about now is we're going to be adding the next colour and we want to think about where our body's going to be. And I'll use this needle as an example. So say our body is here. I've got to work it out so I can, so your head was going to be here, okay? So the head is here. So what we want to do is we want to graduate the colour from this point here, these flat sections here, because this is where the wings are going to attach to our body in a moment. So you want to now take your second colour of choice. Now I would personally go with something maybe a little bit lighter now. So I'm going to go with this yellow. And then we're going to take slightly less this time and we're going to place the yellow starting at the flat point and then graduating it so it's about 3/4 of the way up the body, or up the wing, sorry, of the butterfly. So up there, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side and then just stab that down into place. When you're stabbing with the multi-tool, obviously always try and keep your fingers out the way. It might also help to hold the brush mat down as you're doing it, because sometimes the brush mats can have a tendency to move, especially if you're on a kind of a shiny surface like this table. So hold on to it with your other hand. So I'm using my dominant hand, I'm right-handed, to felt the wool down with the needle, and then I'm just holding everything down with my left. And it's a nice colour contrast, this. You've kind of got the nice candy floss pink with the lovely pastel yellow colour. So again, with those bits that kind of go over the edges, you just want to flip it over and then felt those down, and the same thing here, flip it over and felt it down. It's a bit fuzzy at the moment, but don't worry too much about that, because as we continue to add, we're going to lose some of that fuzziness. So I'm just going to felt it down there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is flip it over and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm just going to add a little bit of the yellow at that flat edge and then just felt it down. You definitely don't want to stab yourself with this multi-tool because you'll have the full force of all 7 needles coming down on your hand. To be honest with you though, I've had less accidents with this than I have with the single needles or the needle pens because they're all encased in this, this plastic. So it is quite hard. I mean, you'd have to purposely do it in order to stab yourself, so they're quite safe really. Never use one of these on a regular felting mat, because what you'll do is you'll destroy your mats and you'll destroy your needles. So just always use the brush mat when you're using a multi-tool. Never on a regular mat. Okay, so now we've got our yellow added. The next thing we want to do is we want to add in another colour, and I'm going to go this time with this aqua blue colour here, and we're going to go for an even smaller pinch, and we're just going to really focus now just on the edge, just here of our butterfly wing, and I've taken enough that I can just flip it over and then felt it down on the other side, creating more of a seal. You could put a bit more on there if you wanted to. I might just add a touch more. I don't want to go over my yellow too much. I'll defeat the object of adding it in, but just get a bit more of a vibrant, clear blue coming through there. then same on the other side. So there you go. So there you have 2 wings that are very nearly completed. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our lower wings. So we're going to do exactly the same process as we did with our top wings, it's just a different shape. So once again, you want to take your pink merino wool bats, as we did a moment ago, and you're going to cover them until they look like this. Okay, so we've got the pink on, so now we want to add on our yellow again. And this time, if I show you, so our wings are going to be top ones like that, bottom ones like that, with our body in here. So what we want to do now is add our yellows and our blues to this flat area here to create the same graduation in colour that we had on our top ones. So again, we're going to start off with the yellow. And again, you want to take it about 3/4 of the way up the wing. And it doesn't have to be done very neatly. It just needs to be just popped on there and just a thin layer, nothing too massive, and then just felt it down. And then finally, we're just going to add that touch of blue right at the bottom. So just pop it down there, move that one out of the way. Felt this down. So now we've added the colour onto our wings, we're going to move on to our needle felting mat to do the next stage. So we've got our 2 initial top wings here, and what you might notice is it's gone a little bit wonky donkey. So this side here has got more shape and this has kind of lost its shape a little bit. So all I'm going to do, and go really careful when you do this, but I'm just going to use my needles to push some of the wing into itself to recreate that shape again. So what we're doing here, so this is going up here a little bit. And I'm just keeping my fingers out of the way. And when you're using a needle felting needle, always make sure that you're removing your needle in the same direction that you've added it. So whatever you do, don't stick it in and then bend it as it comes out, because what you'll find is you'll snap your needles. And whilst they're not super duper expensive, they do cost money, and you don't want to be like spending ages and ages, you don't want to be spending all your money replacing needles. You've got better things to be spending your money on. So just be super careful when you're using them and you'll be fine. There we go. I'm happy with that. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to take your brown wool bats, and we're going to take a very thin strip. A nice, as long as you can get it. And what I'm going to do, because all the fibres are going this way, I'm just going to tease it out very gently. Don't pull too hard, because then you'll pull it away. Just pull it very gently until you've got a kind of even thickness like this. So this is probably about a centimetre in width. And then what you want to do is you want to rub it between your fingers like it's going to be a sort of a thick piece of string or a thin piece of rope. And then as you rub it between your fingers, or roll it I should say, just hold it down into position. So I'll try and show you here. You want to hold it with your left hand using your forefinger and your ring finger. Then you're going to take your double twisted fine needles, and we're going to felt downwards so that the needles are in alignment with the wool. Don't felt like this, because it won't work. Felt like this, and we're very gently going to felt around the edge of our butterfly wing with our twisted needles. And once you've tacked it down, it should be quite easy then to guide the wool around the wing. And what I'm also doing is I'm felting down on an angle, so I'm going downwards to get that initial felt. So I'm going down into the very far edge of the wing, but I'm also felting at an angle to make sure that it's got as much contact with the wing as possible, so it's not going to go anywhere. And I'm just going to work my way around the wing. And you'll find that it sticks to your mat a little bit, so you just need to kind of keep lifting it up every now and then so it doesn't end up completely bound into your mat. And then I'm just going to bring it round again and just felt down this next piece, keeping it as close as you can to the edge of the wing. And this mat that I'm using is a rice mat, so it's just a cotton cover with a zip, and inside I've got just a load of ordinary cooking rice, long grain if you must know, but you can use basmati, you can use arborio, it doesn't really matter. And then, okay, so once you've got to a stage where you felt it all around, you want to take your embroidery scissors and just trim off the excess. Like so. And there's a bit of a gap here, so I'm just going to again go in at a bit of an angle, get that felted down. Just felt over that piece there. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over onto the other side and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm just going to tease my wool out slightly, roll it between my fingers, and the warmth from my hands is also going to help those fibres to muddle together, you see. And again, I'm just going to hold it in place with my forefinger and my ring finger, and then I'm just going to felt that down around the edge. So you've got this nice brown edging to your wing. And then just follow it round like we did a moment ago, until you've gone all the way around your wing. So your wing should eventually look something like this. So you've got this brown edging going all the way around it. I'm just going to give a bit more of a felt down on an angle just to get it a bit tighter. So now you've added the edging, what you want to do now is we want to add some patterns within the wings. So I'm just going to roll my wool and I'm going to place my brown wool like this on an angle, holding it down, keeping my fingers well out of the way of my needles, and just felt this down into position. Until it's nice and secured into place. Just lift it up so it doesn't stick, and then I'm just going to trim off the excess. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to take some more of your brown wool. Again, you want to warm it between your fingers, give it a bit of a roll, and then it's really up to you what you do from here, but I'm going to add this kind of triangular pattern down at the base of the wing. So I'm going to hold my wool into this position here and felt it down. I'm just going to trim off the excess. And then finally, I'm going to add another piece just here as well. So again, keeping my fingers out the way and always making sure that your needles are in the same direction as your wool. And then just felt that down as well. And once that's nicely secured, just trim off the excess wool. There we are. And then those bits that I've just trimmed, I'm just going to give those a felt down, just so they don't become unravelled. Then you're going to flip your wing over and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm going to take my wool, my brown wool, and you can kind of see where it's coming through, so you know where you need to place it. Hold it into position, felt it down. Don't use really, really deep stabs when you're doing this. Keep them relatively shallow. You want them to penetrate the entire wing, but try not to go through to the mat if you can, because that's what's going to create the fuzziness and the pulling. So try and keep them nice and shallow if you can. And trim away the excess. And then I've got that one going that way. So I'm just going to check on the underside, so that's going that way. Hold it into position, felt it down, trim off the excess, And then the same thing with the other side. Okay, and hold it nice and taut when you're doing this as well. So the tauter you hold it, the finer the rope-like effect will look along the wing. Those lines will look nice and solid. Keep going and then just trim off the excess again. Okay, and then all you need to do is do exactly the same thing with the other wing. So I will see you in a moment and I will be back with you in a second. Okay, so I've gone around the edging of all my wings now with the brown wool bats, and I've also completed the other wing to make sure it resembles the first wing we made a minute ago. So what we want to do now is we want to create a new pattern on these wings, because this is going to be the wing that sits underneath our top wings that we've made. So I'm going to take some more of my wool bats and I'm going to take a thin strip. So when you're taking wool bats, work out what direction all the fibres are going in and then just pull very gently apart until you've got the amount that you require. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to warm it between my fingers again, creating that rope-like feel. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 3 lines going down like this. So I'm going to hold the first one into position and then I'm going to take my fine needles again and I'm just going to felt that down. Lift it up and then just trim off that excess and then just flip it over onto the other side and just repeat the same thing. So this is going this way, so put it down like that. Again, take my fine needles and then just felt that down. Until it's nice and secure. Trim off the excess. I'm just going to give those side areas a bit of felt where I've got those loose fibres. Okay, so now I'm going to take another piece, keeping it relatively as thin as you can really, and I'm going to start from the same point as the last one, but I'm just going to bring it outwards on an angle. So I'm going to bring it out to here and felt that down. So we're heading out, we're splaying out where the wing has its point. And I should say I've made this long piece here at the bottom, and all I've done is I've just brought the wool out like here, and then I've looped it like this. And then I've just used my needle to felt that and compact it together, and then I've twisted it around with my fingers to create that finish there. Just going to felt that down. Trim that off, and then the last one, I reckon I can use this one here. Again, from the same point, holding it into place, and then this is just going to go down on an angle towards the bottom end. And again, you don't have to do this, you can do your own thing, you don't have to copy my pattern, you don't even have to put a pattern in if you don't want to, but I quite like it. I just think it gives it a bit more colour and also gives it a bit more structure. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Take some more wool, and again you can kind of see where you've gone through on the first time round, so you can just kind of follow the lines if you like, and try and make again that stabbing motion relatively shallow. Just trim that off there, and then finally just go with this one here as well. Felt that down and then just trim it off. Just trim that, felt that loose bit down there. Okay. Okay, so what you can do now you've created the bottom wing, it's looking quite fuzzy, so what I like to do is just get my embroidery scissors, just give it a bit of a haircut, just to neaten it up a little bit. So I kind of hold them flat against the wing and just trim away any fluff. And on the side as well, and then flip it over, and then again, same thing, just trim away any fluff. And the embroidery scissors are nice and sharp. You don't have to do too much work with this. And you want to get some really small ones if you can, because they're really handy when you're making anything super intricate in needle felting. And do that with all of your wings. Once you've finished them, just give them a bit of a trim just to tidy them up a touch. So I'm just going to do the same thing with the last wing now. Okay, so now you should have your butterfly wings all finished. What you can do now if you want to is you can add some little white dots in, and I'll just show you how to do that now. So I'm going to take these two away. And if you just get some of your white Scotland wool that you were using a moment ago to create the base for your butterfly wings. And what you want to do is you just want to take small pinches and roll it between your fingers to create a ball shape. And then once you've got a ball shape, take your single fine twisted needle and just stab that into the wing. Just take another bit. So it's just a pinch, doesn't have to be massive. Well, it can be as big as you want it to be really, depending on how big you want your dots to be. So just take another one there. And then I'm just going to do one more, which is going to just be opposite the other smaller one. Just stab it down with your fine needle, using that light, shallow stabbing motion I was telling you about earlier. Okay, and then just the same thing on exactly the same side. So just take a pinch of wool, place it in the same, roughly the same position as the last wing, and just felt that down. I don't really bother putting these on the other side. I just put them on the side that's going to be seen now. But it's up to you. You could go with the other side as well, but it's quite tricky to get them in exactly the same position on the opposite side with these. You've got a bit more wriggle room with the brown wool, but the white wool's a bit more tricky, which is why I just tend to go with the one side on this occasion. And then last one just on the end. If you sort of stab it centrally, what you'll find is that the wool kind of contracts in on itself. There we are. So there you go. So there are your dots. So what I'm going to do now is just have another tidy up and just trim any loose bits of wool off. Make it just look a little bit more neat. A little bit less rough and ready. Just there. Okay, so the next stage to move on to next is the body. Okay, so we've moved on to making the body now, and I apologise in advance, my children are now home, so it might be a little bit noisy from time to time. So what you want to do is you want to cut your pipe cleaner in half, like I have done here, and then you just want to get your wings that you've made, and we just want to put them into position as to where they're going to be roughly when our butterfly is finished, because that way we can gauge how large we want our body to be. So I want my head to be roughly about here, and then the tail to kind of fit in probably about here. So I'm just going to snip these ends with my little clippers, my little jewellery snips, and then get rid of those, and I'm just going to bend those ends over like so. Okay, so I'm just going to move my wings out of the way for the time being. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the same brown wool that we've been using to do the edging for our butterfly wings, and we're going to wrap it around our pipe cleaner. So I'm taking a long strip here, and you want to get it, make sure it's all flat, make sure that it's not twisted or anything like that, and I'm just going to split it again in half. We don't want anything too wide because then it doesn't evenly distribute around the pipe cleaner. So I'm going to start in the middle of the pipe cleaner, and I'm going to lay my pipe cleaner over the top of my wool and then pull the part that's kind of just hanging out here, the loose ends over the top. And then I'm just going to start folding this, making sure it doesn't twist, holding everything down with my left hand, not letting go of this, and then keeping it nice and taut. So I'm sort of moving my fingers upwards. I'm going to go past the end of the pipe cleaner, and then I'm going to go backwards. We want to cover that end of that pipe cleaner, you see, and just keep making sure that as you're folding, your twists are flat. They're not twisting over like this, because then you end up with all sorts of horrible lumps and bumps. Yes, Mia Moo?
My friend got me a bowl and my ice cream fell out into the bowl. So
Yeah.
I'm just coming down to get spoon.
Okay, does that mean it's on the floor?
No, it's in the, I put it in the bowl.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you're getting a spoon. Okay, no problem. Okay, so just keep twisting round until you've got no more length left.
I'm just taking my shoes off.
Back and forth until you've used up all of your wool. And then once you get to the end and you've got about sort of 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch left, hold it down with your fingers, take your fine twisted needles and your needle pen and just felt down the side of the shape, so you're not coming into contact with any wire. And just keep your nails out of the way once you've tacked it down. There we are. And then you want to take your second piece and do exactly the same thing. This time I'm going to start from the end and then work my way to the top. So again, holding that in place with my left hand, keeping this nice and flat and taut, and folding it over the pipe cleaner. Don't worry too much if you have a little bit of looseness. A little bit of looseness isn't the end of the world, because you can always felt it down. But overall, you want to try and keep this as tight as possible, because if it's really loosey-goosey and it's kind of coming away from the pipe cleaner, you're going to spend loads of time doing needless felting, whereas if you just kind of do it nice and tight, it saves you that pain. Okay, so again, just holding it down, using my nails as a barrier to the needles, and then felting down the side again. Okay, so we're starting to get a bit more of a body shape. What I want to do now is I want to start focusing more on this thicker area here, which is eventually going to form our head. So I'm going to take another similar width of strip, and this time I'm going to hold it and I'm going to tack this one down this time, because I've got enough wool now in place to tack this into position, whereas when you're starting out you can't do that because you're just kind of going against the wire. So I'm just going to tack that into place, and then I'm just going to fold right to the end, going past the end again, and then back over itself. All the way to the end. And then back up again. And then use your needles to just felt it down. I'm just going to give it a bit of a felt all over. You could use any colour wool to make the body. It doesn't have to be brown. You could use, I tell you what, a lovely flesh pink would look quite cool. And then your butterfly will probably look a little bit like sort of the Axel Scheffer butterflies that he draws for the Julia Donaldson books. Those kind of quite cool butterflies with the faces. But I'll let you decide. But any colour wool bats will do really. It doesn't have to be brown. I've just gone with brown because I wanted it to match the exterior, the kind of the outline on the butterfly wings. Okay, so that's the third wrap. So I'm going to go for another wrap. Again, I'm going to focus more on the head this time, So again, I'm just going to tack this down into place. So it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm just going to fold this over, keeping it nice and tight, going past the end and then back again over the body. And actually this time I'm going to go about 1 inch in, and then I'm going to come back over again towards the head area to create more bulk for our butterfly head in a moment. And then I'm just going to felt that down. And this little twist here, don't worry too much about this, we can get rid of this by just felting it down like so. Just be cautious of the wire because you have got wire in here still, but as you add the layers you should find that it becomes easier to felt the body. But just again, do light stabs, don't do anything crazy and go really deep, just keep it light. And then I'm just going to felt inward a little bit just to create a bit of a flatter front so that when we add the face in a bit, we've got a nice rounded face to work with. Okay, just going to felt that bit that's joining down there so we get a nice even look to the body. So the next thing you're going to do is we want to add some more bulk to our head to create an area where we're going to put our eyes. So I'm going to go back to our wool bats and I'm just going to tear off some strips. And we're going to make it quite thick. Yeah. So I've got these wool bats here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to tear them again. So I'm going to pull them apart in the direction that the fibres are going. And then the further apart you hold them, the easier it is to do. If you try and do it really close, it's a bit like hair on your head, you're never going to do it. So just do it far apart. So I'm going to just split them that way as well because I want to create quite a lot of thickness here. And I'm just going to fold it so that the fold is at the front and then the looser bits at the end. And I'm just going to hold that down so I've got about just under 1 centimetre exposed, and then I'm going to felt this into position. So this is going to create a bit of an area for our eyes to go. So. You can see it's starting to form that kind of that eye and nose shape. And then once you've got that all compacted down, you want to go for another layer to go on top. So I'll be back in a second when I've added all my layers onto the head. Okay, so eventually your sculpture should look like this. So all I've done is I've added another 3 layers of wool, which I've felted into place, and I've kept a bit of squidge there because we're going to be adding the eyes in shortly. But it's important that you don't go too far back with this. You want it so that you've got about 1/2 centimetre of the nose. If you go too far back, what will happen is you'll end up with a very long nose and your butterfly body will look more snake-like in its facial appearance. So always go a bit further forward so you don't have a really long nose attached to your butterfly head. So the next thing you need to do is grab your medium needle, your medium twisted needle, and you want to decide roughly where you're going to put your eyes. So I'm going to go here and here. So once you've kind of marked roughly where you want them to go, you're just going to make some little divots for them. And you want to get these quite deep because you want them to look natural sat in your butterfly head. You don't want it to look odd. So I'm gonna just do the other one as well at the same time. So it's kind of, you want them looking as symmetrical as possible. Okay. And this can take a little while, but just be patient and just really compact the wool so you've got 2 little holes where your eyes are going to sit. Okay, so something like that. So it looks a bit like a bear at the moment. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to grab some of your black wool bats and you want to make 2 circles with these, 2 little balls. So I'm going to take 2 pinches and I'm going to roll them between my fingers like so, until you've roughly got the same size ball, like so. And then all I'm going to do is just pop them into the eyes, into the little sockets we've made, and felt the black wool into those sockets. And if you start felting down in the middle, the rest of the wool should contract inwards, so you end up with quite a neat circle. And then once you've kind of pushed in all the wool centrally, you can then start to do like a circular motion with your needle, always remembering to take it out in the same direction you put it in to get a nice circular eye. And I'm just going to put this one in the other side. Do a few light stabs initially, because if you go down too deep, what will happen is the wool will come out and it'll be stuck on your needle. Whereas if you do a few little stabs initially, it stops that from happening and it just secures it into place. And then you can just go on your merry way, stabbing your eye in. So the next thing we're going to do is going to add some pupils into our butterfly's eyes. So again, I'm just going to take a pinch of white, and same with the black, I'm just going to roll it between my fingers until I've got 2 white little balls that are roughly the same size. And I'm just going to place these just kind of upwards, so they're almost like it's looking up. So in the upwards inner corner of the eye where we've just added the black. Again, I'm just concentrating on stabbing my needle in the center, and then that naturally causes the wool to contract. And then the same for this side. And do it gradually when you add the second one, just so you can check that it's definitely in the right position and it's not going to be on the wong. You might have a drunk looking butterfly. So there we go, so it looks like that. The next thing you're going to do, and this is going to be the thing that makes your butterfly look cute, is we're going to take a very small piece of the white wool bats. And again, like we did with the brown earlier, we're going to roll it between our fingers. And then I'm just going to take my embroidery scissors and just cut that in half. Get rid of those bits there. And then I'm going to cut it in half again. Do apologise for all the banging. Luckily, we've got home insurance, so hopefully nothing too catastrophic's going on. Okay, so now you've got that, what we're going to do is we're going to place that white just at the bottom of the eye. And I'm just going to take my fine needle now, so I'm just going to swap that round. There we are. And then I'm just going to very carefully, with my fine needle, put this in the inner corner of our eye. You don't want it to touch the white we've already added. And then you want it to go to the outer corner and be slightly thicker in the outer corner. This bit can be a bit fiddly, but it's not a difficult thing to do. It's just a case of you just need to take your time. Don't feel like you need to rush it. Just take your time with it and it'll be absolutely fine. And it automatically transforms your eye into this really cute looking little eye. Okay, so there we go. You've got your white in your eyes. What you could do is you could add another little bit of white just for a bit of reflection. So let's just do that. And that's going to be even smaller than the white we've added a moment ago. So just a little bit, just on the outer corner of the pupil we've already added. And really focus on getting this in as much as possible so that it's almost like it disappears into the eye. You want it to be about a quarter of the size of the pupil you've just added in. I'm just going to trim away that loose bit, like that, you see. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more on the other side. again, keep going until it's about 1/4 of the size of the pupil. Otherwise, people will be confused as to what's pupil and what's kind of the light. And there you go. So that is your eyes. So the next thing you want to do is you want to add some eyebrows. Now, the trick to making cute eyebrows is to go inverted. So rather than going with a regular bow, you want to go the other way round. So I'll show you. So all you're going to do is use your fine needle and you're just going to stab into the wall like an upside down rainbow. There we go. That's your little eyebrows. And then finally, we're going to add in our mouth. So I'm just going to give him a bit more of a stab here, just to shape the mouth a bit more. And then I'm going to get some more black. Again, and do that rope-like effect. And I'm just going to hold it into the position where I want it. And then using my medium needle, I'm just going to felt that black into the brown. I'm just going to take my embroidery scissors, trim off that excess. There we are. And then once the excess is trimmed away, and then just going to go and felt that properly into position. And if it's nice and deeply inset, it will look more natural, you see. I'm just going to go a bit more in the corners. And then what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to add a couple of dimples either side of the mouth. And that just gives the mouth a bit more shape and looks a bit more like he's smiling. Okay, so eventually your body should look something like this. So you've got the cute eyes and the mouth in place now, and we can now look to add our wings. So let's add our lower wings in first. So I'm just going to take my fine needles, I'm going to hold them so the wings are touching, but they're going over the body. And I'm just going to use my fine needles to felt those down into the body. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn them slightly. I'm going to pull them in a bit and just felt that into the body. And then the same with here. Just going to felt down the side slightly so it's being felted into the body like that. So once we've got our lower wings added, we can then look to add our top wings, our wings that go over the top. So again, so you want them to overlap on the wings here, and they're going to be placed over the top of the lower wings. And then again, you want them touching each other onto the body. So I'm just going to hold those down like that. And again, I'm just going to felt those down into position. And once you've felted them down a few times, they should stay in position quite easily then, and then you can just continue to felt until you can sort of feel that they're well and truly felted into your butterfly. And this can take a little while. I'm just going to keep checking, giving it a little pull, just to make sure it's all nice and firm and nothing's going to unravel. There we go, like that. So the very last thing to do with our butterfly is to add the antenna. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some floristry wire. I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to take my wire snips and I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to fold it in half again and cut it again. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my dull needle and I'm just going to bend my floristry wire a few times round my dull needle, and then I'm just going to go for one more. Do I want one more? No, I think that'd be okay. So you've got something like that. So you've got something with a bit of a bend, and then the same again with this one. So I've got my dull needle. In fact, I'm going to go this end because this end's already bent. My dull needle, and I'm just going to bend it round a few times, and then just flatten it into position. Just check that they're roughly the same length. Bend that one down a bit more. Okay, bend that one down. So we've got a nice twist in them. And again. There we go. Okay, so now you've got your two floristry wires that have got the little bends in them for our antenna. So what you want to do next is you want to take your dull needle and you want to place it down into the head just above the eyebrow of your butterfly, and then you want to give it a good old twist and a good old wriggle around. You want to create a little hole, you see, and you want to take a little while to do this, so you've got a good sized hole. Take one of your antenna that you've just made, pull out your needle, and as you pull out your needle, keep your wire close because it'll be difficult to see in a moment where the hole is. And then place in your antenna like so. So same on the other side, just above the eyebrow. Give it a good wiggle and a wobble and a wiggle. Creating a nice sized hole. Get your antenna ready. Just ease out the needle, and as you've eased out the needle, place in your floristry wire. There we are. There you go. So you've got your two antenna in your head of your butterfly. So the next thing you want to do is you want to take your super glue, and we're just going to add a dot of super glue to the top of each antenna, sorry, to the bottom of where each antenna sits. And we're just going to let that dry, and that will then keep them in place so they don't move anywhere. And then once this is dry, you will have created your beautiful butterfly. So I hope you found that useful, and I'm going to be back again with more tutorials next time. But in the meantime, say hello to, I think I'm going to go with Bertha the butterfly. So that was my butterfly tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like this video, and please feel free to subscribe to my channel because I'm posting daily at the moment, and I'm trying to post all things to do with needle felting, whether it's a tutorial or something handy like a hack or something like that. If there is something that you want me to cover within my videos, please let me know in the comments bar below, and I will try my best to cover what you want me to do, whether it's a tutorial or you want me to cover something regarding what a certain wall is, what a certain needle is. Let me know in the comments below and I will try and help you out. In the meantime, it was lovely to do this tutorial with you today, and I will see you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye.